we're seeing here, people trying to walk through, drive through these streets at this hour while Irma is here. That's what we're seeing, and that's what we're experiencing. I'm going to try to walk over here to see if we can take a look. This is closer to the ocean, and what we've seen is this water that keeps on ponding. Again, the storm surge coming onto Brickell. This is the financial district in Miami. Water on streets that are not supposed to be on the streets, of course. Ponding that is happening, and as more rain comes down, as more debris comes down, these drains are being plugged, and the water does not run off. Now, Miami needs to be drained on a normal day. So, John, when we are seeing surge, when we are seeing rain, when we are seeing debris clog drains, a very serious issue of everything's concern, of course, here in Miami as we continue to get pounded by rain and as the surge continues to come onto land. John?
Yeah, and the bad news there, Rose, is Chad Myers told us not long ago we'd expect 5 more hours of it here in Miami. That's even before it goes up the West Coast where it could be worse. Every time I feel like I'm suffering here in Miami as the wind comes down where I'm standing right now, who is out there on Miami Beach, which is an island just off where I'm standing right here, who's getting even worse than we are. Let's go to Kyung La out there if she can still be Kyung.
John, it's the pelting rain and wind as conditions deteriorate out here at Miami Beach. It looks feels very bad, but one thing we do want to tell you is that we just spoke with the mayor of Miami Beach, and he says that his city is in remarkably good shape, especially considering how much rain and the beating of wind that they're getting here. What they've seen are down power lines, debris, some overnight rescues before they had to call it. The city has been responding very, very well. He's very pleased. They have not had a massive amount of flooding. The storm surge has been remarkably forgiving. We are seeing some water come in on the beach, but generally there hasn't been any major flooding here. So the mayor says the curfew will go back into effect for anyone who's here in Miami Beach. And something else that we do want to point out, even though clearly you can't get around in this weather, the mayor says that the bridge between Miami and Miami Beach, those connectors, those roads are being cut off. People are not being allowed in or out of an abundance of safety.
Kyung, thanks very much. I can give you a sense of Tampa. We're on the Riverwalk here. We have been watching, and I want Chad Myers to see this because we're about to talk to him because Chad's been talking about this phenomenon. We have been watching this through the Hillsborough River. The water being out, moving, being sucked into Hillsborough Bay, then on into Tampa Bay. You can see the sandy embankment across the river. The water has lowered while we have been standing here over the last several hours. And of course, that water, once the storm surge starts to come in, all that water is going to come back. It's going to come back hard. And flooding, the potential flooding here in Tampa is a major concern. I just talked to the mayor a short time ago. A year ago, he had warned of the effects of a Cat 3 storm directly hitting Tampa, something they haven't seen since 1921. He had warned about the potential of 15 feet of water in downtown Tampa by City Hall. Again, that is going to be happening. Whatever water comes in, it's going to be happening in the darkness, in the nighttime hours. And Chad Myers, the Weather Center, that storm surge that we can expect here in Tampa and that people in Naples can expect, and in Fort Myers, it's going to be happening most likely in the darkness, and often, and correct me if I'm wrong here, after some of the biggest, the strongest hurricane force winds have come through.
No question about it. The surge will happen when you think the storm is over. Because we're on the wrong side, think about hurricane landfall. We're on the west side of an island or a peninsula, whatever. We're typically talking about an East Coast landfall, and the surge comes in with the eye. The eye is going to go by, suck out all the water, and then the wind is going to get calm, and then the wind is going to blow back here at 120 miles per hour. And when it blows back, it's going to blow back now just piling up offshore. It's called a very shallow area, kind of a shoal out there. There's a lot of sand. You can go on a boat for 40 miles before you actually find any depth out here. All kind of sand and shallowness will push that water quickly back up in Tampa as the storm goes by. Yes, you're thinking, oh, this is finally over. But if you are by the water in Tampa, it is not over. Now, let's go back to what the mayor said. A direct hit by a Cat 3. What does that look like? A direct hit by a Cat 3 comes in off the Gulf of Mexico and slams into Pinellas County or something like that, so that the spin of the storm pushes all the water into Tampa. That is not what we're seeing here. This is not a direct. This is not a 15-foot surge. Our storm is coming in this direction. So we're going to push all the water out, then we're going to push it back in, but only 5 feet. And I think that's still a very good number. And the mayor was correct. If the storm is slightly offshore, then all of a sudden we could get more pushback and get a bigger number than 5 to 8. But right now, I think that's still a fairly good number. Now, down here in Naples and Fort Myers, 5 to 8 is not the right number. You guys, especially from Cape Coral, Punta Gorda southward, you're 10. And if you get south into the Everglades or close, you're 15. You need to get out of the way of the storm. Marco Island, I know there are people hanging out on that island. I don't get it. You need to be off there before it's too late. There's a long bridge, and at some point in time, that window is going to stop. You're not going to be able to get off at all. But, you know, the entire island is going to be covered up in water. Any roadway that's not wet with salt water. And then if you're in a high rise, and I know that's where people are staying, all your equipment theirs is going to be wet. Everything HVAC, everything that you need to really be comfortable is going to be wrecked. And then you're still going to be on the island and you may not be able to get off. So that's all West Coast. That's where the next focus is. Right now, the East Coast is still getting pounded, and that's where all of our reporters are seeing a surge into Miami, into Fort Lauderdale, all the way up the coast, anywhere along the intercoastal waterway. That's what's getting water now. If it's 2 to 3 feet, I think everybody can handle it. When it gets, and some spots will get 6, all of a sudden there's water in everything. Anderson.
Yeah, Chad, we want to start checking in with those reporters on the East Coast of Florida. Brian, standing by in West Palm Beach. Brian, how are things there?
Anderson, we're getting pounded with some of the early stages of hurricane force winds here. We're now in the window in the next several hours where we're going to really get the most intense storm surge that this area is probably going to see. The storm surge is on the intercoastal waterway to pound up against that walkway there. And the mayor of West Palm Beach, I just talked to her on the phone, Jerry Moyo. She told me she's really concerned about flooding because the storm surge is going to come up a couple of feet at least. It's going to probably inundate this area with water. She's worried about this drive, Flagler Drive getting flooded. There is some water over here. And the wind intensity has really picked up in the last, 15 minutes. These palm trees behind me are starting to get compromised. We're over here bleeding badly, and palm fronds and coconuts are becoming projectiles. They're starting to fly all over the place here. Just below it, you see these street signs wobbling, and even these sturdy stanchions behind me that have the street light on them are starting to wobble a little bit. So that's a real concern. I also just spoke to a local fire chief who said that basically we're in the window now where people call 911. They're not going to be able to come out and get them. It's too dangerous for the first responders. That chief also told me, he said there's a big concern about the construction cranes, like the one in Miami that's or at least cracked. The chief assured me that these are secured, that the taps of them are pulling with the wind. He said they're supposed to do that. They're supposed to go around like a weather vane. They are pulling with the wind. He said they're in good shape, and he wants to reassure people of that. And he wanted to clarify something on our air. I think one of the experts said that we had said that people hadn't evacuated these buildings next to the cranes. Well, some people did evacuate. They were under a voluntary evacuation notice. Some of them got out, some of them did not. But the people who did not, who live in these apartment buildings, have told us they are now concerned that these cranes may hit their apartment buildings. But the fire chiefs just told me right now they're confident they're going to stay in place. Anderson.
Brian, I appreciate that. And you know, a place like Tampa, and a lot of cities in Florida, they've seen such a real estate boom over the last couple of years. There are cranes everywhere. I mean, even here in Tampa, right by the Hillsborough River, we here, and they weren't expecting as big a storm as is going to be hitting Tampa, I assume those have been secured as best they can. Obviously, something a lot of people who live around here, who have stayed around here, are going to continue to watch because there are a lot of people who have stayed in some of these buildings. There's some high-rise buildings here. They're off, they're above 15 feet or so, above 20 feet. They're pretty confident. We've talked to a lot of people.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was talking to my cousin just recently down there. And from what I understand, there's going on in Houston where they didn't want to rescue people. When it came down to shelters in Florida, many of the Black people faced racism. Gave up and went back home. The Black people that were trying to get into shelters, he told me they went from one place to the next. Even in the Black neighborhood, white folks piled up in all the shelters. And Black people ended up going from one place to the next and being turned away because they were told the shelters were full. So many of them gave up and just went back to their homes and said they're just going to ride out the storm. So it's a lot of racism going on. They're more interested in saving down there in Florida. So it's happened all over again. Oh. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm sorry that I had to go silent there for a moment. I had my cousin trying to text message me. Yeah, so what generally happened with the Black people down there, they were trying to go to shelters, and many of them ended up going to so many multiple shelters, they just gave up and went back to their homes and said, we'll just ride it out. And it's a shame. And it was so much to the point where wherever they had white people in the shelter, he was saying they had police cars all around when they were turning the Black people away. I guess so nobody would start acting out and they would try to arrest them. So he said he didn't even care about leaving, you know, because he lives in an apartment and he's pretty high up. So he said he really won't be impacted by it. But yeah, they're doing Black people dirty. They're doing them dirty by not letting them into the shelters. But they said when you go there, even in the Black neighborhoods where they have shelters, it's just a whole bunch of white folks in there. So, you know, we get tired of this mess. I know I'm sick of it. Sick of it. You know, it just goes to show you, even times of trouble, they put racism first instead of, you know, and it just goes to show you these people have no humanity whatsoever. There is no humanity in these people because they're not human. They're a bunch of hybrids. How the hell can you do that to people? And you know, and there's women with small children and everything, and they won't even let them in. But they got the white folks all up in there. Yeah, we really, and you're right, Keystone to Freedom. I'm sorry, 12 Keys to Freedom. You're right. We have to rely on ourselves because after looking at Hurricane Harvey, where the boats just went past the Black people were saying when the white folks in the boats went by them, they were using racial slurs. Tell you, we can't lean on anybody but each other. We can't rely on anyone else. So I'm going to do my fundraiser. Whatever money I raise is for the heat. I'm sorry. That's the way I'm doing it. I don't care who doesn't like it. Don't give a damn. You know? Hi, Running Stream. Yeah, no, you know, if other people can think of themselves first, I can think about my people first. Plain and simple. I don't care. No. You know what? 12 Keys to Freedom. I did a video. It's uploading right now. Called my house this morning asking for money and blood. the Red Cross. And I told them no, I wasn't giving them one dime, because what happened to the donations for Haiti and even Katrina? They didn't give nothing to those people. That's why so many of them, so many Black folks had to leave and go to other states. They didn't do anything to help those folks down there. I'm convinced the Red Cross and all of those foundations are just things owned by the elite. And this is just another crafty way for them to keep their pockets lined. Don't give the Red Cross nothing. Don't give them anything. They don't deserve nothing. But yeah, they're actually begging people, calling and begging people for money now.
On these streets, because a lot of the debris that's been flying around is now blocking those drains. Now I'm going to pan the camera over here so you can see what it looks like closer to the ocean. This is in the direction of the ocean. We're seeing a lot of that water come in.
All right, so they got here the police in Miami-Dade is no longer
taking in
responding to calls.
That lower floor where usually,
but see, they're going to have a lot of storm surge. A lot of water is going to come on land because the entire state is practically surrounded by water. So I mean, it's like an island. It's completely unavoidable.
We're seeing wind tunnels because this is the downtown area, because there are high rises here. Now, we've also seen people who did.
Yeah, I'll have it in the video if you wait until this is done. I'll have the fundraiser that I'm doing for Hurricane Irma victims in Florida. So you can do it then.
Now, John, there is a drainage system that is designed
this is ridiculous.
To drain water out here at this hour, being tested both by surge and ponding water. John?
You know, and this is why we got to stop trying to bond and be around people of other races, because as you can see, when these hurricanes hit, no one from any other race reached out to help us. When you saw those rescues in Houston, it was Black men stepping up and grabbing anything that would float to help our people. You did not see anybody else helping Black people, other Black people. So we can't forget that. So in times of trouble, they want to help their own. They don't want to help anybody else. They put race first. They did it in Houston, and they're doing it again in Florida.
Hurricane Irma will be right back. Above 10 feet above sea level. And if that is the case, and the storm surge is right, at one point or another, everything could be flooded.
That's right.
No update. It's still missing. The ocean is still missing, Cassandra. It's still gone.
You could be in trouble here.
But they did say they expect it to come back. But for now, the ocean has not returned. It is crazy. All the things that are going on now.
It could come after the eye hits. That's when the worst of the storm surge could hit. If the eye hits around here in the afternoon, we could see people in darkness with that storm surge. And it could be a very sort of silent, rapid thing in the dark. Water rising in the dark is not easy to detect. So that could be the real danger here over the next 24
Again, thank you very much. We'll check in throughout the day. Some signs blown over in South Miami-Dade County. Some live pictures from the SVN there. Let's listen.
Way you see it rushing against the street. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And I don't know if you can listen to it.
That rain is coming down.
Train with square wheels riding down one. I mean, and these are the images that people think of with Hurricane Andrew. But imagine, 2 to 3 times. That's what they experienced 25 years ago when Hurricane Andrew came to this area. And a lot of people talk about Hurricane Andrew when they were talking about getting ready for Irma. So certainly, hopefully, people are breathing somewhat of a sigh of relief.
Very
96 miles per hour. They're so fast that the sheriff's office is saying all emergency vehicles are now cleared from the roads. They will do trains and streets, and some of the roads are destroyed as well. Clearing controlled.
We do have one as the type of generator that kicks in immediately after losing the power. And that indicated feel free to come by if you if it gets to be too much for you.
Yvonne can also, thank you so much for letting our viewers in on what you're experiencing there. We wish you the best of luck.
40 miles an hour to move into Southwest Florida already. They're having gusts at that height. But the forward progress of the storm, 8 or 9 miles an hour, this will be a very slow mover. They're expecting some
signs down, potholes in the road, and just like little things. The roadway into the hotel proper, there's some trees that are down there. We're not going to worry about shooting at it. Trust me, it's there. And this is what we're seeing a lot of right now. The question is, how long will these winds sustain? Will we get up this way in the Fort Lauderdale area? Will we get strong feeder bands? And what happens is that the rain continues, the wind continues, kind of weakens branches and so on. And you get a big gust, and then that's when you get
I would not doubt it. I would not doubt it. But yeah, I was fuming mad when I heard, when my cousin told me that, the black people were getting turned away from the shelters. I mean, I'm still fuming. I'm still fuming at what they did in Houston down there, to our people. But, fortunately, but it's going to have to be like that. We are going to have a plan on our own whenever a tragedy strikes, no matter where you are, because these folks are not going to help anybody other than themselves.
This is images that everybody seems to be sharing today on social media.
He also told me during Hurricane Andrew, when the shelters got packed down there in Florida, they were asking people to take folks in to their homes, and he said all of the white folks down there were refusing to do it. They were refusing to take people into their homes. See, that's why all this stuff is happening. These selfish bastards, they're getting exactly what they deserve. All right, so they're saying 2 million people right now in Florida are without power. 2 million people. Katrina was your wake-up call? Yeah. I think Katrina woke a lot of black people up. Not to mention My Greatness, they also, the Red Cross also collected a lot of money for the Katrina victims, and they virtually got nothing. But they collected millions of dollars for Katrina, millions. I think they almost, I think they got nearly $200 million collecting money from people all over the country for Katrina, and those victims virtually got nothing.
What happened? We were expecting this.
Yeah, Cassandra, you're right. I believe judgment is here now. I really do. I don't know if any of you are aware, but there is a 4th hurricane out there, Hurricane Lee.
And expected to almost double from there. I mean, that's what this major hurricane means to you.
Yeah, like I said, I'll post it again. And, after this is over, and hopefully you'll be able to get it. Let me see if I can put it in the comments section. 1 second.
But it's a force that is multiplied by itself. It is wind speed squared. And so you really have to expect what's going on there. The water,
let's see what I can do here.
It's now 4.5 feet below where it should be, and it's going to come rushing back as soon as that eye gets by. There goes the eye right through Sarasota and Tampa, and then maybe even marks that I was there for the flood for Ivan. Here comes the storm, though, coming on shore right now near Everglades City. Again, a second landfall. The first one was Cudjoe Key in the lower Keys, just to the east of Key West. There is the spin of the storm right now, pushing the water away from Naples, pushing the water away from Tampa, but that will end as soon as the eye goes by. Tampa, you still have about 8 hours before that eye goes by. But this is now the high-res forecast radar. Significant and stormy weather, winds to 90. Just had a 91-mile-per-hour gust in Miami Airport. And so that's still going to happen for the next few hours. Move you ahead 3 hours. The storm spins, and Naples is in the eye. We'll see wind at 120 going from east to west. We'll wait a while. It'll go to 0. And then it will come from the other direction at about 100 miles per hour. So what's blowing one way will then get knocked around and get picked up and blown the other way as debris. And that's going to be Sarasota, for Venice, for Tampa. Same story. You all get inside the eye. So the wind goes, does its damage. The wind stops and then comes back around. Even though they're not here, there's still going to be damaging wind speeds, at least 90 miles per hour on the backside of that. Chris, you have a question.
Yeah, the storm surge, Chad, thank you for explaining that exchange of energy and that phenomenon of water out.
Yes.
But do me a favor, try to quantify what that return will look like in terms of how far it could go from where it usually is inshore. Are we talking 100 feet in, a couple of blocks in? You know, like how far in will people have to look at standing water, and how long can it be around?
It's all about the topography of where you live. If you're on a very sharp angle to the water, it may only come back 1 or 2 blocks, but there's no real mountains there. There's nothing elevated there. It is going to spread inland for city blocks and maybe miles before it finally stops. As the storm goes by, the winds change direction, and this is what the Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, has been so concerned about. In fact, they gave us a personal phone call and said, we want you to stress this is it. Yes, things will get knocked down with the wind, but the surge will kill people. We want everyone to know that.
Yeah.
This is the real deal.
I mean, you have to really, what he's saying is true, because you have to think about it. If Irma took the whole ocean, the surge in Florida is going to be a mess. And a lot of the people, when I was down there, a lot of the people in one-story homes, the surge is 15 feet. The whole house is going to be submerged underwater. A lot of them are going to be submerged. So, you know, people are going to end up losing everything down there.
Correct. Absolutely.
And the surge always happens practically after the storm is out of there. That's when all the flooding will begin.
From the east, the backside of the eye never recovered from hitting Cuba. And I guess we're going to, you know, thank some stars for America. We're going to have to help Cuba because they got hit by a 160-mile-per-hour Cat 5 that took the stuffing out of this storm. That's why we're not talking 160. We're talking 125. Big difference in power, difference in damage. The northern part of the Cuban Keys.
Boy, I tell you, those trees are whipping around pretty violently.
Taking the energy from Irma, putting it onto Cuba proper, and taking that energy damage away from America.
Yeah, well, Florida is going to be in bad shape for a long time after this. Yeah, you're right, Elena. They did feed our babies alligators. They've done a lot of things. A lot of racism has gone on down there. You know, a lot of lynchings went on in the state of Florida, just like it across most of the South.
Nice to get that level of detail, because that is what all throughout this region are looking for now, trying to absorb every detail.
Yeah, our people are foolish when it comes down to the church. 12 keys to freedom. We are a foolish people when it comes down to church. The money, those ministers don't even help the poor people within their congregation. They don't help the poor neighborhoods most of those black churches are in. All they're doing is just helping the minister, and they're not doing anything for the poor in the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, what we are seeing right now, you will be seeing very shortly. The winds here are 40 miles per
The thing
hour.
is,
They are
if the
sustained.
churches,
They are
black
gusting up to
churches
50
all got
and things
together,
the worst weather we've seen
there
so
should be
far.
no
It
homeless
is
among the black
shelter in
community
place
at
in
all.
Charlotte County.
That's how much money they collect every single week around this country. There should be no homeless black people anywhere if the church was really doing what they're supposed to for the community, but they just simply don't. Instead of that, you see these ministers riding around with Rolls Royces. All of their children are riding around a BMW. That's the kind of stuff you see. It's ridiculous.
And all that watering out. So what goes out must come back in eventually, and they're expecting things a little bit better here. They're expecting the winds to top out about 100 miles an hour in Punta Gorda, with gusts up 135, so a little better than we were yesterday. They're also expecting the storm surge to be a little bit lower, 5 to 8 feet.
Yeah, they do. It's all by design. We know that. That's why you rarely see any ministers siding. Hi, Cap. How you doing? Shalom. That's why you rarely see any ministers really siding with the black community, Elena. You don't see them out there fighting for the community because they're getting paid. And their silence is also helping, the enemy. Yeah, running stream, the church was the worst thing that ever happened to black community. Christianity is sometimes, I really believe it's worse than a drug. I definitely believe that.
So we are now battening down and hungry for the duration.
Right.
We're going to check in.
That money could go towards homelessness. You could wipe out homelessness. It can go towards loans that black people couldn't normally get from banks. There's all kinds of things. They could help build up the community, help put people to work. There's a lot of things. But instead of doing that, you just got a greedy minister at the top. And like I said, and nobody gets help. Hell, around me, there's probably 2 churches that actually you can go to, and they have a food bank.
Anymore, and the van is there to help.
The rest of them around me don't do squat to help the community. There's only 2 that I know of, that people had told me about. The other ones, and there's a lot of black churches around here. The others do absolutely nothing to help the people in the community that need food or any kind of shelter. They do nothing.
The timing of this is going to be critical. You could see the worst of the wind in about 2.5 hours time. And keep in mind, high tide here is at 3:55 p.m. So we could have the worst of the wind and the highs of the tide just at the wrong time. They've been aggressively trying to get people out of this thing. 20,000.
Yeah,
they've done an excellent job with
Tampa, Florida is supposed to take a direct hit. So, and I heard the traffic is really bad up there with people trying to run. They should have really got out days ago. It's really time to leave.
That's exactly what people are out, except for some journalists who watch this. As far as
right, and it's the community fault too. For not demanding, the community itself, where a lot of, where it's poor, they're not making any demands on these churches. Allowed to just set up shop in the black community and then do absolutely nothing. We got a habit of doing that, not only among each other, but even all these foreigners coming into the community, these Chinese and Arabs and East Indians, and they do nothing. And in many cases, they won't even hire the people that work there. They won't do nothing. But see, it's kind of our fault because we don't make the demand that they do these things. So they get away with it. Right.
Who knows at this point? The pool area, we checked that out earlier. The pool seems to be okay as far as the water level. But we saw a door that's swinging open with supplies in it. Unfortunately, we couldn't open the gate to get to it. I might have to try to do that later. All right, so this is the front of the neighborhood. We're gonna walk through these gates here. See some. Some people are still taking advantage of this so-called nice weather that we have. People are taking walks. Not recommended, even though speed bump's gonna trip me, so hold on 1 second. I can see just that person here. That tree snapped already. It's already gone. And over here you can see some palm fronds down. We're going to walk through these gates here. Okay. Here we are, we're just off the old Metro Parkway. You can see palm fronds have already taken a beating. We would be lucky if we only saw palm. Palm frond damage. You can see a bunch of them right there. All across the end to this neighborhood is Forest Lake. You can see the palm trees. It's taking eating right now. I want to be able to show you guys the street. This intersection over here. The lights are still working, but it's only a matter of time until those likely go out. See if I can get my photographer to zoom in on the street signs. You can see they're just swaying right now. And it's really powerful. And then this camera that's closest to us, it's already bent. The other ones haven't bent from what I can tell, but this one is pretty badly bent already. Here's another bad band, so I'm going to hold on to my hat because I lost it a couple times. Yeah, this is one of those dangerous bands. We're probably going to need to seek shelter. Caleb, look at this sign right here. The construction sign is just wobbling. Of course, it stopped. You see those trees over here? I'm really interested here. I'm really interested to see what those trees do during Hurricane Irma to see the aftermath here. But it's getting pretty hairy out here for us, so we're going to send it back to you guys so we can get into some shelter.
Good idea. Okay, thank you very much, Kim. And, she showed those traffic signals and those poles. A lot of them have all been replaced to withstand very strong winds from hurricanes, so they may fare better this time around than some of the previous, as well as some of the power poles. We've seen FPL and other major utilities replace a lot of the power poles, those old wooden ones with break, snap. They've got those big concrete poles that are meant to, that's right.
Them, and a lot of them are concrete.
Right, so they may fare a little bit better than some of the other things in our area.
Hopefully that will help. We have on the phone, I believe, Ada, who is downtown in Fort Myers, riding this out in one of the high rises.
Oh, Warren.
Oh, Warren. Okay. Thank you for joining us. How are you guys
losing
doing?
Some trees, but others are being pushed to their break point. Different structures are being tested. What will happen when this storm surge that Chad's talking about, when that comes back? And when these much more powerful winds, you heard him say, Anderson, he believes that the effective force of the winds that we're going to get in a few hours will be twice what we're getting now. That's the big concern.
Yeah, I want to go to Miami, where Peter Zaleski is a business owner. Is there, Peter? I'm wondering, how are things for you in terms of what you and what have you been seeing in your area, Miami?
Well, Anderson, what I can tell you is right now in the streets, and I'm in downtown Miami, I'm probably about a good 1,000 feet, maybe 2,000 feet directly from Biscayne Bay. Biscayne Bay is about ready to breach some of the seawalls that are in and around it. On the actual street level, it's probably about 2 foot deep or grill of a regular traditional automobile. And in terms of winds, it's probably 70 to 80 plus, and you're getting bursts. You can see it in the windows when the windows start to get pushed in. And a lot of the trees are bending, and they have been bending for quite some time.
The location you're in, is it a new construction? Because, it's one of the things we've been talking about is in the wake of Andrew, building codes were really upgraded, particularly for any new construction in South Florida.
It is a brand new building. It was constructed in 2013, came online. Developer had the foresight to go forward and actually build it. So it's almost as if you're starting on the second floor. So the first floor is where the parking garage is and where you enter the building, for the most part for visitors, is going to be on that second floor. So think of what you'll see in the Keys, or think about what you'll see in certain parts of which flood a lot. Effectively, that ground floor is basically just dedicated towards parking. And, when the water recedes, then you can sort of clean up and go back to normal. So they did take those advantages. And they also, too, they put in place some pretty strong, stringent glass panes. And so far, they seem to be holding up. But, I'm not sure if it'll continue. But I have some confidence, and I'm here.
And in terms of supplies,
Okay, anybody that's in the state of Georgia, I just got a message that came across. All Georgia counties are under a state of an emergency. Okay, so if you're in Georgia, I don't know if you're aware of it, but it just came through. The governor just made the announcement like an hour ago. All Georgia counties are under a state of an emergency. All right.
People have been told to have about 3 days worth. I assume you have stocked up.
Well, fortunately enough, I went vegetarian, so I have a lot of beans and rice laying around. So I tended to cook up some of that, throw some spice in there, and I'm not worried. The only thing I'm worried about is probably gaining weight.
Well, if that's your only concern, then you're in very good shape. Obviously, here in Tampa, which has not seen this level of storm in nearly 100 years. 1921 was a storm which really decimated this area, and obviously back then the city was not anywhere close to the development that we have seen now. But there's real concern about the buildings, their ability to deal with the level of flooding that may occur here. Peter, I appreciate talking to you in Miami. Certainly wish you the best in the days ahead. Our coverage continues from points all across southern Florida, from the west coast to the east coast. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
All right, thank you. We'll be back. We have a great perspective to know that they're safe going through this. Let's go to Marco Island now. I think we have some new video here. Folks on the island starting to see tree branches coming down on the road. And again, Marco Island, this situation could change very, very much in the next couple to 3 hours.
Yeah.
We'll be watching that closely.
Absolutely. They're seeing hurricane wind gusts and very, very strong winds there. Of course, the island was under an evacuation order for quite a few days already. Most people have left, but this gives you some idea of what people, if you're out of the area, you're trying to get some news about your neighbor. We are seeing some big trees broken off in this picture. So that is expected in this type of hurricane with the winds that we're seeing, that will have a lot of tree damage, maybe some power lines down. But if you look at the house is faring just fine in this picture. Of course, it's a limited view, but we just want to give people on Marco some idea of what's happening there. Now to Fort Myers Beach, and this video near the Diamond Head Beach Resort, and you can see the palm trees are always the...
See a neighborhood by neighborhood here. Looks like a lot of people shuttered up there. The winds are starting, but as she was saying, a lot of folks, and there are a lot of neighborhoods like this, there's not always a place a garage to bring a car inside, or to bring the trash inside. Hopefully, if you have a next door neighbor with a garage, get those things in, because those things absolutely will fly in a hurricane, those garbage canisters and those recycling canisters.
Yeah. Let's go to some video from our crew that's driving around Naples, and they were doing this earlier today, and they went to several areas just to see how things were progressing. This is before the current weather we're seeing in Naples right now, so it is not as severe as is going on right now, but you can see there's a lot of wind, some very, very heavy rain. When they stopped the car and got out, there was some very, very saturated ground already because of all of those heavy rain bands. Jim Farrell told us most of the rain is to the north of this storm, so we're seeing so much rain right now, so much of that heavy rain and downpours. But the roads, you see, nobody's on the roads. That's a great thing to see. Roads very clear at this hour, but the windshield wipers are going as they're driving around, and you see some of the landscape damage, palm fronds in the middle of the road there. This is probably now down near the Gulf Shore area, if I remember her saying. And some of the trees and palm trees on that saturated ground have been knocked over. But so far in this part of Naples, earlier today, this is at least an hour or two ago, there was not heavy damage caused by the early bands of Hurricane Irma.
Yeah, but the winds are picking up. Let's go to Kelsey Kushner live on Fort Myers Beach for us now. Kelsey, how are you doing?
Guys, yes, I did for a couple of minutes because I wanted to show you guys just a little update of how it's doing out here. You can see some of the trees are blowing a lot more in the wind than they were this morning. Now, when I first got out here at 2 a.m., it was just starting to see some of the wind, a little bit of rain, but now such a difference. I mean, you step outside for 2 seconds and this wind hits you, and it hits you hard. Now, there is a pool down here. I don't know if we're able to see it through this screen, but some of the water in the pool is splashing up. It's already going over the edge of the pool. There's some branches in there. We're not seeing a lot of damage, but we do see a lot of palm tree leaves. They're down. There's some pots that are knocked over. Nothing too bad, but it's definitely kicking up out here. Now, I just want to say that we are staying at the hotel. We feel safe right now. We did just have a team meeting with the general manager. He told us that he wants us to pack a bag, and around 4 o'clock when the hurricane's supposed to hit us the hardest, we are supposed to evac into either a staircase into a ballroom and kind of hang out for the entire duration of the hurricane. Now, for me, this is my first hurricane, so I'm a little freaked out, but he is making us feel incredibly safe. I feel really safe being inside this concrete building. So far, I mean, they have all of the windows boarded up through the hallway, so it's a little chilling hearing the wind pounding. You hear it howling. You can't walk anywhere. You kind of feel a little slip, you slide a little on the ground because a lot of people are coming in with wet shoes. So it's dark, but I know that we are safe outside here. So again, we just have some trees blowing. Winds are definitely kicking up. The beach has some sand kicking up on it as well. So we will be safely monitoring the conditions out here. We'll keep you guys updated with how the beach is doing. Back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kelsey. And follow those directions because they prepare those buildings just so they have a safe place for people to go and ride out the worst of the storm.
Go inside and be safe. All right, let's take you live to some different cameras around the area. This is from the Hyatt Coconut Point. This is Estero looking off from Bonita Springs, looking off toward the Gulf right now. And you can see, we have noticed the conditions really starting to deteriorate in these areas here in the last few minutes. So we'll show you some of these live pictures.
And let's go now to Sanibel, to the Sanibel Causeway. And you're going to see, as Jim pointed out earlier, there's no water in Ponderosa, where the boat ramp is. The water has been pulled out. The rain is coming down very, very heavy right now at the Sanibel Causeway, and visibility is just terrible. Deteriorating conditions there at the Sanibel Causeway.
Yeah, you can tell the difference if you were watching a few minutes ago about how much worse it is there. Let's go live back downtown to Fort Myers. And this is right outside of our back door here, Billy Creek. And look how low the creek is. The water is still going out toward the river. Now, interesting that we just talked, because we don't have a perspective on the.
All right, y'all, I'm going to end my hangout because Tareen Rain is going to be starting his hangout in like 5 minutes. And I don't want, I don't want to be going around the same time he's on. Plus, I want to be able to go to his hangout. So I'm going to end mine and just go over to the one that Tareen Rain is having. So if some of you are going over there, I will see you there. If nothing doesn't dramatically change, I will, I probably won't be coming back on, not unless something really drastic happens during this hurricane. Then I will come back on. Again, if any of you can make a donation to my hurricane fund, I would deeply appreciate it. I'm going to leave the link to it in the comment section of this hangout. And I have 2 more videos that will be uploading soon. I will have the link to the Hurricane Fund and those videos as well. Thank you for coming, and may the Most High protect you and your family, and you're all safe no matter where you are in this country. Love you all. Peace, family.